I remember I pulled up outside Wax McCarthy offices on Sunset in Venice, and you came bounding up from God knows where, crept out of some wall in Venice.
A skip.
Skipped,
A dumpster.
yeah, and and said, "Hey, Jonathan, we got to make a feature film. You and Pete and me, we got to make a feature film." And I said, "Sure, Al."
We spent 2 years trying to sell Repo Man, sending out the script, sending out the cartoons,
hunting in New Mexico,
going to New Mexico, and I mean, we tried so many avenues to,
Right.
We did a low budget. I mean, Al brought the prospectus for the $70,000, and we were going to shoot it with the UCLA equipment. I mean, there were so many ways that we tried to do this, but in some ways, the person who introduced us to the person who was going to introduce us to Nesmith was Abby Wool.
Was Abby Wool because she knew?
Well, Abby Wool, whose mother had been dating Harry Gittes, and Abby gave me Harry Gittes' phone number, and while you guys were scouting Dennis Hopper in New Mexico, I called Harry Gittes, who said, "Well, give us to Michael Nesmith," and they had done that movie
Time Rider.
Time Rider.
Yeah,
that's right.
And he got it over to Nesmith, and Nesmith read the first scene and said, "I'll do this."
What you got in the trunk?
Oh, you don't want to look in there.
Harry Gittes was really the first producer, real Hollywood producer that we had ever encountered. And the first thing he wanted to do was throw you and I off.
Right.
Because he wanted to produce it. And,
First of all, I remember Michael threatened to visit Wax McCarthy offices, which had then become the Edge City offices. And then he honked from downstairs in this huge Mercedes, and I went running downstairs, and Michael told me to get in the car, and I got in the car, and he said, "We need to go for a drive." So I said, "All right, fine." So we went for a drive, and he said to me, "We need to put Harry Gittes on this picture as a producer." And I said, "No, it's not happening. Peter and I are producing this film." And he said, "Well, you need to make a decision. Either we put Harry Gittes on, or we don't make the movie." So I said, "Well,
Stop the car!
I guess that's the way it's going to have to
back
be.
to the office,
That's the
please?"
way it's going to have to be." And he said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, I'm serious." And I got out, walked upstairs, and like an hour later, he called us up and he said, "Okay, we're going forward. We'll cut a side deal with Harry Gittes."
And then we met with Richard Mazur.
Yeah, I thought he was coming to an audition, but I think, in fact, Michael Nesmith had sent him along and told him he was going to be the director. Because about halfway through the meeting...
And not you?
And not me. About halfway through the meeting, I was talking to Mazur, and I said, the thing is, I think you are a very good actor, because I'd seen him in Cool Stop the Rain.
Right.
With Ray Sharkey, and he was great, And Mazur told me halfway through the interview that he'd actually been sent by Nesmith to be the dialogue director. And I said, "What's the dialogue director?" And he says, "Well, the dialogue director is what you have when the director's an incompetent, And the dialogue director gives the notes, and tells the actors what to do."
Oh, boy. I love it.
And I said, "I don't think we need one of those, And he goes, "No, you don't really know."
They were frightened in a way. I mean, they were frightened by bringing Richard Masur, that you were the first-time director. They were frightened that we were first-time producers and wanted to bring another producer on. But in the end, you made a great movie.
Well, I think we all made a great movie because the thing was that we remained in solidarity in all of those issues, that you guys didn't dump me for Richard Mazur, and I didn't immediately go, "Oh yeah, Harry Gittes is my man," because we knew if we stayed together,
right,
then we would actually we'd be more likely to succeed.
Tense situations, kid. Get in 5 or 6 of them a day don't mean shit anymore. I mean, I've seen men stabbed that mean shit. I've seen guns too, they don't mean shit. But that's when you gotta watch yourself. Here, I'll handle it, pal. Let us settle down. Have a nice day. Night. Night, day, doesn't mean shit.
When we were going to go for Harry Dean, I went and paid a courtesy visit on his agent in Hollywood, whatever agency it was, one of the big 3 agencies. And I met his agent, and it was such an eye-opener for me, because the agent tells me, "You don't want to work with Harry Dean, he's past it. You want to work with Mick Jagger." I'm thinking, like, have you read the script? It's about like a crusty 60-year-old LA repo man, you know. You're going to have... This is not a part for Mick Jagger, and in any case, you shouldn't be saying this to me because I've come here to talk about your other client.
What are you, fucking commie? Huh?
No, I ain't no commie.
Well, you better not be. I don't want no commies in my car. No Christians either.
What was your thinking in terms of Emilio as Otto? Because you seemed to want him. You liked what he did in The Outsiders, but why did you cast
Well,
him?
he was all right in The Outsiders, but the thing is, he was a viable possibility. I mean, because I wanted to do it with Dick Rude.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Dick Rude was an unknown quantity.
I kill people like you. Actually, I was very disappointed about not getting to play the lead in the film because it had been built up for over a year. And then one day finding out that it wasn't actually me that was going to get to play the part that I had always been reading was, you know, devastating, yeah.
Sometimes our sorry task as being producers
To say it's
was
not possible.
to try to dissuade Alex of people. And I mean, remember the Chris Penn thing where
Right.
basically Xander Schloss might not have been in the film if Al didn't really stand up and say, you know, Chris Penn wasn't going to be the
Well,
right
you
guy.
fired his ass.
Otto.
Xander, you know, is a
Well, it would
legendary
never have been
character.
a Napoleon Dynamite if Xander hadn't played in Repo Man, because basically that was a sort of a Xander rip.
Feeling 7-Up, I'm feeling 7-Up. It's a crisp, refreshing feeling, crystal clear and light. America's drinking 7-Up, and it sure feels right. Feeling lucky 7.
Kevin, stop singing, man.
Huh? What's a singing guy?
I'm standing right next to you and you're fucking singing. Cut it out.
We went to Emilio's manager,
Right.
and we went to the agent, and none of them would show him the script because they said he's not going to do small films. He's
Right.
only going to. We're positioning him to do large films. And then we met with Marie, and Marie said, "I can get him a script." And she went through the Sheens, gave him the script. He read it, and we said, "Let's meet at this Thai restaurant on Pico."
That's
and
right.
Remember, we went to this. We met him at this. It was kind of. He goes, "I can't be seen by anyone."
Saturday Night Live! Monday Night Football! Dallas! Jefferson's! Gilligan's Island!
We had this big meeting at the office after the first day, and Al drove the car, and we sat up there and we talked about our fears, and we shouted a lot, and we probably drank a few beers about, are we falling behind? We're a half day behind. We have to get on it. And Al left, and he walked down to where the car was, and the car had been stolen.
There's a lot of stuff in the movie that came out of your literally hard research of hanging out with Repo Man. Did you literally sit there with, what was his name, that guy, the Repo Man?
Mark
Lewis.
Did you write down a bunch of stuff he said?
Yeah.
And then turn it into dialogue?
Yeah, because Ed Pansulo, the actor who played one of the blonde CIA men,
Right.
had a roommate who was a repo man, and so I drove around with this guy, thinking it was an interesting subject for a film, you know, and indeed it was, you know. And so a lot of that stuff that he would write down, you know, was like, although that Harry Dean said, it was actually stuff this guy Mark Lewis said, but then it got mixed up with the 3 Laws of Robotics. By Isaac Asimov.
Repo Code.
And then Harry, to his credit, Harry actually consolidated several different speeches into that one Repo Code speech. And that was his idea, was to take the script and kind of make it all into one scene. And it was a very good choice.
Jesus Christ. I never broke into a car, never hotwired a car, kid. I never broke into a trunk. I shall not cause harm to any vehicle, nor the personal contents thereof, nor through inaction let that vehicle or the personal contents thereof come to harm. It's what I call the Repo Code, kid. Don't forget it. Etch it in your brain. Not many people got a code to live by anymore.
So you as a director were obviously open to the input from people around you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think the directing of Repo Man is particularly noteworthy. I think it's more noteworthy in terms of the writing.
I agree with that, but I would take exception because I think that these performances are absolutely flawless. I mean, every one of those characters is completely believable.
It's the casting.
They-
Victoria
Oh,
Thomas.
yeah, but you know, it's like recognizing that it's working or not working and letting them do their thing or correcting, adjusting, what have you. but I think it's brilliantly directed. I think
very.
there just is
It was an amazing social satire, and this was Reagan had just been reelected, in 1980. The country was going to hell in a handbasket. The wars in South America, the Sandinistas and all the freedom fighters that were being funded against them. And there was just so many things that I felt that Alex was able to consolidate and incorporate into a story.
Do you see it as a satire?
I don't really know. I mean, I don't really think of it in terms of a specific thing. I mean, it's sort of a comedy, but we always hope that it would be, if you looked at a still from it, it would look like a serious film.
Right.
Like Kiss Me Deadly made in color.
See, that motherfucker Ole thinks I don't know what's going on, like. As soon as I find that Chevy, I'm going indie. I'm gonna buy myself a tow truck, a couple of pit bulls, and run a yard. Sit around and watch everybody else do the work for a while.
No way you can do that on 20 grand, man.
The hell I can't. As long as you got good credit. My credit is spotless.
In a way, the Repo Man is the key element of the capitalist system. Mm-hmm. Because the Repo Man is there that if you renege on your obligations to the system, who is kind enough to extend credit to you, he will come and get you. So in a certain way, the nodal point of the whole system is the Repo Man.
Well, that's, and Bud is
the
mad.
enforcer.
Right.
If we only could get him to pay.
Right.
Bud, they're homeless.
But they still owe money.
Just get him to pay.
Yeah.
Fucking trash. Makes you wonder how much they owe. Most of them are on the run, don't even use their fucking social security numbers. There's just some way to find out how much the motherfuckers owe and making them pay.
Jesus Christ, Bud. They're winos. They don't have any money. You think they'd be bums if they did?
You want out? Do you?
No.
Do you think we could make this film today?
I don't think you could make a film that was so political, actually. I think it's far too political. You'd have to take out all the political references. Because don't forget, today they would be concerned about finding product placement. Is there some tie-in they could do with Taco Bell? And will it sell in Walmart,
I mean, one of the things that people have commented a lot about in the film is the generic product. And we were talking about the fact that nobody wanted to give us product placement. That was essentially a fallback position for us, wasn't it? It wasn't like we thought, ooh, great, let's do generic on everything. It was like we were hoping to get product placement on the beer.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give it, and we just said, let's go with beer.
That's right, because we did try and get Mickey's Big Mouth, didn't we? We tried to get all that.
Well, I think what actually happened is that we finally got one of the big stores that had this generic food, and it
Ralph's.
it was Ralph's, and
Yeah.
but it was actually past the date that they could sell it. So they had a warehouse full of old generic food that they weren't legally allowed to sell.
Drop it, motherfucker!
We said, Al, if you could have anybody
Right.
shoot it, who would you have shoot it? And you said Robbie Mueller. And
Because of American Friend.
American Friend.
Yeah. I was really influenced by the people around me, and principally, of course, by Robbie, because he was shooting it, So in a way, he kind of set the tone. And his taste was really for masters, which I enjoyed very much, and the tripod, which I hate, And so it was interesting, that sort of trade-off, because his lighting was so beautiful with the gaffer Greg Gardner, and his compositions were so beautiful. And he was absolutely right, why go for close-up, 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 close-up when you can just put the two heads in a master and keep it there?
Yeah.
But I did think he tended to limit himself by not liking handheld photography, and that sometimes we could have got a bit more energy into the film if the camera got off of that tripod,
I was put in the unfortunate position of saying, Robbie, some of these masters, they're not paying off some things. Like when Cy throws a present out the window. I said, when you shoot that master, you don't know the gag. And Robbie looked at me and was like, I don't shoot inserts. So we went out with a second unit camera and we shot these inserts. And after the dailies, he came staring up to me and he went, you're worse than a studio executive! And then he stormed away.
There was a scene in which Fox Harris has died, and they put him on the bench. and they're about to torch him. And the camera was like way across the street. And I was like going nuts. I'm going like, you got to at least get some coverage on this thing. And I said to Robbie, don't you think you should like get, a piece of coverage on this? Maybe go in a little bit closer and do this? And he looked at me and said, there's only one correct place for the camera.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how about over here? Would this be a correct place? And he said, yeah, that would work too. And he did, and we actually used that shot.
He was a great asset, and really raised the bar in so many ways.
Really
the look of the film is
superb.
absolutely
It's
so. The
gorgeous.
lighting is just gorgeous for a film from $1 million movie.
Yeah, the guy's great. And,
Well, I mean, and shooting in downtown LA. I mean, we basically downtown LA. We had the run of downtown LA.
Well, there hasn't been as definitive an LA film, I don't think, as Repo Man since probably in the 50s that anybody really used.
Kiss Me Deadly.
Kiss Me
Kiss Me Deadly.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool car.
Uh-oh, the Rodriguez brothers.
Motherfucker just flipped you off.
Roll the window down, roll the window down.
¿A dónde vas, pendejo?
¡A chingas tu esposa!
Watch it, motherfucker.
Hey, fuck you, pussy punk!
Holy shit.
Want me to take him?
My favorite line by far of mine is Hermanos Rodriguez don't approve of drugs, because you had me holding a joint and I remember you said make sure you take a drag after that line, and a lot of Chicanos in East LA, they've done it to me, and they say they do it to each other right as soon as they light a joint. Hermanos Rodriguez don't approve of drugs. They pass it around. Hermanos Rodriguez don't approve of drugs.
Neither do I, but it's my birthday. That motherfucker's still down there.
Don't care how long it takes, dildos!
Harry Dean started swinging his baseball bat and came within a hair's breadth of hitting one of the Rodriguez brothers.
They didn't mind. It was Robbie Mueller that objected because Harry wanted to use a real bat, a
Right.
wooden bat for authenticity, but Robbie Mueller said he wouldn't shoot anymore because he said he felt the breeze of a wooden baseball bat go by his face like that.
What?
Come on, cocksucker!
Well, didn't Harry then storm off?
Oh, Harry stormed off a number of times.
Yeah, because
Harry
I
stormed off quite frequently.
remember having to go into his trailer and chill him out then. But then you ended up writing him out of some scenes, right?
At that point, I thought, I wanted
Thought
to
he was
fire Harry
gone.
at that point
Yeah.
because I thought actually he was dangerous. But as Nesmith said, I would be the one that got fired
Right.
because Harry had been established on camera.
Yeah, of course. But then, but which were the scenes that you wrote him out of and you put Cy into?
There was
right?
the scene where they robbed the red Mustang.
Right, the shootout with the
And the guy starts
blacks.
shooting from the house.
Alex came up to me. His aside, I've been trying to figure out something. Something's missing in your character. So what I want you to do is you and Emilio are going to be riding in this car. And when the car pull up, it's going to stop here. He's going to get out. Someone's going to shoot at him. And you got to say something. I said, oh, okay. I got to say something. I got back in the car, drove up, and I'm driving back thinking, what am I supposed to say? This man, that's okay, all right. No, so we got in the car, came up, and we did it, and I got out, and I pulled out the gun, and I aimed the gun and started to shoot, and I said, get in the car, white boy, get in the car. Great line. And today, people will stop me and say that same line.
I'm still on the job, white boy. Get in the car. I'm gonna man. I'm gonna fucking do it! Get in the car! Jesus Christ.
There's a scene in the film where Marlene comes out and goes, yeah, just like John Wayne. And Miller says, John Wayne was a fag.
Yes.
And then he said, the rest of the guys go, the hell he was.
John Wayne was a fag.
The hell he was!
He was too, you boys. I installed two-way mirrors in his pad in Brentwood. And he come to the door in a dress.
You're fucking nuts. That doesn't mean he was a homo, Miller.
Don't?
A lot of straight guys like to watch their buddies fuck.
They do?
No, I do. Yeah.
Yeah?
Don't you? Damn straight I do.
Motherfucker John Wayne, man. Tell us his name, you little pussy.
The John Wayne thing was somebody that I was told in Venice, California. In those years when we all lived in Venice, California, and there was a company called Arrow Glass and Mirror that was run by a guy called Swatty. And Swatty died quite young of a brain tumor or something, but he told that story as truth. He said that he had gone and installed these kind of two-way or one-way mirrors in John Wayne's house in Brentwood, that Wayne came to the door in a dress, was flirting with the Mexican laborers, and I don't know if it was true, but I was told that story, and so we put it in there,
Yeah.
And it was amazing how it got in. I mean, nobody ever made us take it out. There was no objection to it. It just kind of crept in.
Every single one of the characters is like morally bereft. There's nobody. The Rodriguez brothers are as bad, if not worse, than the Repo Men, and Otto is no better or worse than the punks. Is one perhaps white suburban punk. So it's almost like there's no one who rises above the soup.
But I'm your old lady.
Helping Hand Acceptance Corporation.
Oh, shit. I forgot all about her.
What kind of car?
Well, she'll take the bus. She's a rock.
I think in some ways, and obviously he's one of the people who ascends, so to speak, at the end. Tracy Walter is a kind of a mythic figure in some ways, and a lot of films use mythic figures as guideposts for where it's going to go, and he espouses all these rather profound things that if you look at a lot of the quotes that people constantly come back with, a lot of it is Tracy Walter. Tracy Walter basically is telling it like it is.
I do my best thinking on the bus. That's how come I don't drive, see?
You don't even know how to drive.
I don't want to know how. I don't want to learn, see? The more you drive, the less intelligent you are.
The original ending was the Rodriguez brothers up on Mulholland, right?
Oh, I don't even remember what. There were 14 drafts.
Yeah.
And there are so many different endings. There was one ending where there was a bomb in the car.
Right.
And one version they took the bomb to Central America and sold it to revolutionaries, and in another version it went off.
Went off in Los Angeles.
And then only at the very end, when we were actually shooting, did you come up with this alternative ending where...
Well, but I came, up with it under duress, because Nesmith came back to us and said, we can't use the ending, which at that time I believe was the Rodriguez brothers go and finally look what's in the trunk, and Los Angeles goes up in a mushroom cloud, and that Universal would never accept that for some odd reason.
No, I remember it opposite, because Universal had already signed off on the script, and that was the ending.
The only reason we wrote that new ending was because Nesmith pulled me aside and he said, we got to change the ending. And I went to you on the set. I remember you were sitting on the frickin' sidewalk, and I said, El, you got to write a new ending. And you said, I can't do it, I'm too busy or whatever. You go and do it. If we got to do it, you go and do it. Can you ever imagine doing a sequel to Repo Man?
Well, we tried to do a sequel to Repo Man at one point.
I know that.
We had it.
Can you imagine trying to pick
Put
up
me into the schmata business.
Peter's still recovering from that experience.
Yeah. But Miguel Sandoval actually has come up with an alternative sequel to Repo Man, which he's offering us for a very small fee.
Yeah.
Which is that we steal the idea of John Borman's film Point Blank. And Otto comes back to take his revenge on the four Repo Men: Harry Dean, Tom Finnegan, Cy Richardson, and Tracy Walter. All of whom have become very rich off the proceeds of the Malibu.
You're right.
And the
Malibu's worth $25,000. They wouldn't
but
get
it's
that
become
rich.
what, 25 million.
Right, they invested in tech stocks. And they
They
got
hit
out
the market in the right
time.
time. That could be funny.
Yeah, and so literally he goes on his vengeance trail across LA, just like Lee Marvin does in the John Borman film. And wreaks his revenge on
Well,
this
hell,
guy.
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hey, the Universal seem ready to
Nesmith's
do business.
waiting for
Nesmith's waiting for
our
Let's get
call.
it done.
Yeah.
Wow. This is intense.
Life of a Repo Man is always intense.
I remember Michael saying, if you guys are still talking to each other at the end of this movie, I'll be amazed.
It's very difficult.
And now here we are, 21 years later.
We haven't talked in 21 years.
It's the first time.